You're watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to continue the Wednesday Kaiju feature of the week. And this one, we're going to be rewind reviewing Varan The Unbelievable. So, this movie came out in 1958. First let's talk about what the highlights were for me. Depending on which one you watch, and I would recommend the Japanese one, I, unfortunately, had only access to the American one. I did see the Japanese one quite some time ago and couldn't remember a whole lot until I actually watched the American one, and then it started to trigger that there were things missing. And as it turns out, there's quite a bit missing. Somewhere between 17 and 20 minutes were cut. A lot of things were completely redone or done over. And it was a bit unfortunate because the American version is very much watered down compared to the Japanese version. But highlights for me, the mountain scene. For those of you who have seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I thought that was very cool. When you first see him, I mean, it's a very, very nice outfit that they use to portray the monster, the man under the suit. And, the story was, was fairly simple. I mean, it was all right. It wasn't great. It wasn't groundbreaking. And the approach was very nice, very similar to Godzilla, although this one you see much more, the Japanese one at least, you see much more of Varan. At least it seems that way. Sometimes they film it in such a way where it might seem that way. Then when you put on the minutes together, it's actually the same. So, but it was good. It was if you watch the Japanese one, I can't say the same thing about the American one. The American one, they took a lot of things out. They really, really took a lot of things out. There was really, really very little dubbing, if any. The star of the movie was an American, and he had a wife in the movie that was a Japanese American woman who spoke English just fine. Many of the other characters were not. There was no dubbing needed at all, which I think. That's probably one of the good points of the American one, is that unlike a lot of the other Toho movies, this one there's not that dubbing or that bad voiceover, because these movies, when they come over here from Japan and America dubs over them with English speaking, it just takes away from a lot, where in this one you don't have to worry about that so much. That's one of the good things about the American version. The story on both ends is completely different. In the American version, the American lead, I forget his name in the movie, you know me, I'm there for the monster, But for the most part, the story revolves around him being at this island, and they're desalting the water or studying the salts in the water, something along those lines, where in the Japanese version, it's more like an expedition that starts everything, and they run into like some ritualists who are praying to the gods of the mountain, and warn the expedition crew that if they continue to persist in their investigation, they're going to anger the monster Varan. Which leads to my next point, the name. The name in Japanese, Japan, they say Varan, but in the American version, I believe it's Obaki. Obaki is what they call him. That's what they don't even call him Varan in the American movie. There's one scene where there is a character who's speaking Japanese and says Varan. That's it. Nothing more. That's all they do. In terms of the costume of Varan, I loved it. I love the costume. Very unique look. It is in black and white, so that may be what helps it, is because whatever blemishes there would be or any kind of colorization problems, you don't really notice it too much in black and white. But also, I don't want to take anything away from it, but because Varan wasn't used very much in Toho. I don't even think you can count on one hand how many times you've seen him in a Toho film. So I'm pretty sure that the suit was rather preserved for that reason. Now, he had a lot of great features about himself, the monster, that they don't showcase in America, and I don't know why they didn't. For example, for those who saw the movie, the mountain scene. Well, you know that scene is not in the American part of the movie, so that sucks. There's extended footage in the Japanese version in terms of his destruction in Japan, where in the American version that's cut significantly. So a lot of stuff. The other thing that sucked too was, once again, much like Godzilla Raids Again, Akira's music was not used in this movie, the American version. Akira did it for the, Japanese, and then America got their own composer and they redid the whole sound score. So that sucks. It's nice to know that America at some point wised up and just let his music run, because after a while, during all the Godzilla movies, his music was in there. So, but it's two totally different movies. So I would definitely recommend watching the Japanese one first, because you're going to get a lot more Varan in that movie. You're going to get to see a lot of cool things about him in that movie that you're not going to see in the American one. Story-wise, I can't really say that one is better than the other. These kaiju movies, story-wise, usually are not they're not groundbreaking. And some of them later on get a little out of hand. But, this was a solid story. It was okay. It wasn't something crazy like Aliens you would see in a Godzilla movie. It wasn't something, out of the ordinary like time travel. It kind of made it seem like an ancient beast who got pissed off, and he went and just let people know, hey, look, leave me alone. It's interesting to see, because in the movie, in the Japanese one at least, the military, once they hear word of him, they actually go after him, which kind of surprised me. It's not, it's a very aggressive move, and of course, like any other kaiju movie, you throw a bunch of missiles and rockets and tanks at a monster, and it doesn't faze him. They came up with some special, like, gunpowder or something like that, or something along those lines, which is what they use to kind of neutralize them. Kind of, some highlights in the movie that kind of drew from Godzilla, the flares, which is the first time they used it, is when he went up to the mountain. That was very Godzilla-like in terms of Godzilla Raids Again. They used that to try and draw Godzilla away from the village, from the city, and it didn't work. Where, because the escaped convicts, the whole fire thing. Where in this movie they kind of used the same approach, but it proves to be more effective because Varan is intensely attracted to the flares to the point where he tries to eat them. A lot of scenes that you see in other kaiju movies, water fights with the military, making his way to Japan, wrecking the city, finally getting up on his hind legs was another highlight of the movie. But it was solid. It was a solid kaiju movie. I really like the design of the monster. I would love to see, if Toho decides to go back into the vault and re-explore doing Godzilla movies and monster movies under their tag, I definitely would like to see Varan. And I would like to see the suit from that age. Obviously a little updated, but I wouldn't want them to stray too far away from that design. I really do like that suit. I like the concept and his mechanics, the things he can do. The skin flaps, the on all fours or on his hind legs. I think it's a very versatile creature that why they didn't use him for such a long period of time is beyond me. But I think I like it. I like it. It was solid. It was a good, solid, classic, black and white monster movie. But I would recommend the Japanese version over the American by far. The American version barely tips over an hour. I think it's an hour and 6 minutes in total, while the Japanese version is your traditional average 87, 90-minute film. So, but yes, Japanese version first. If you haven't seen Varan and you want to check it out, find the Japanese one. Do not watch the American one. It will completely turn you off. It's just a completely different movie. And you hardly see the monster. And I know that sounds like, some of the things we've been hearing lately. But when you see the Japanese one and how they did it and how they set it up versus the American, it just doesn't compare. It doesn't compare. So, but anyway, guys, that's it. Varan the Unbelievable. Watch the Japanese one. Skip out on the American one. Good movie, great costume, decent monster. Hope to see him utilized in the future, but we'll see. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Don't forget to subscribe and join the Nation Facebook page.